Good morning, everybody. This video is in fact sponsored by Newark. They're having a brand mega sale up to $1,000 off. I've been posting about it. They sponsored this cool board behind me, the 75-inch touch panel. And check them out. I mean, it's not just for educational purposes. You can use it as a TV essentially, and you can do all sorts of stuff. Stream on there. You can use it for video conferencing. You can use it for work, educating, you name it. It's like a giant tablet, 75 inches. So let's get into the weather, shall we? We have a lot going on. So let's talk about what we do know and what we don't know. What we do know is that this morning storms kind of fell apart. So the models were suggesting maybe a complex blowing through. I checked the radar at 4 a.m. I saw a little bit of lightning. Then kind of gusted out. You can see that gust front way ahead of the storms, which usually means it's dying out. So we still have the slight risk of severe. This will likely be updated at the midday update. The current tornado threat still as it was previously. I think there might be a couple of changes to that though. Maybe a slight shift west and we might drop back into the 2%. I could be wrong. Damaging wind and hail. Hail is the main threat. I think the tornado threat could end up being confined to where this hail risk is. But we'll see. And then we get into tomorrow. Some of this could be overnight activity into Sunday, and then we have that threat setting up in the southeast again. But we're under the marginal risk with more scattered activity for tomorrow. So let's take a look at what we do know. I'm going to see, this one's half loaded, the 15Z. So why don't we drop back to the 14Z. Let's take a look at reflectivity first. I always like to look at these models and say, which one is handling the initial conditions the best? It helps sometimes. So this rain mass to the west, one you're seeing here on live radar, kind of has it figured out, kind of not. But let's animate this out. You can see it indicates that it starts to fall apart. Now I think it looks a little bit robust on here. There's a little bit of a cap going on right now above us. So we'll have to see. Now it suggests some storms forming to us, to the north of us late tonight, kind of turning into a big cluster of cells. Around, well, let's see when that is. Let's back it up a second. Initiation time, 01Z. So we're going to go back. That's about 8 p.m. tonight. 9, 10, 11, midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So this is a little bit later than some of you were probably expecting. Now, is this necessarily how it's going to break down? No. I mean, these things could form earlier. They could be weaker because of these clouds and showers that are still hanging out to our west. But let's take a look at what it anticipates for, let's take a look at the composite really quick, like to show you the more powerful cells. So again, it indicates that kind of falling apart. Now this shows it being pretty vibrant. So I suspect that it could be more of a tornado producer, maybe west of Alexandria, kind of in this area, just west of St. Cloud. And then we could have some embedded circulations in this main cluster Boeing situation. A lot of heavy rain, wind. So a lot to process here. But let's take a look at the severe weather aspects of things. So, surface-based CAPE, measure of how much instability we kind of have in the air. So again, we talked about this yesterday. Surging north, and we've got that strong CAPE boundary setting up. So kind of right over the Twin Cities. So just north of that is where you kind of want to look for some of these storms to pop. So we're in a good spot. We just might not have a lot of exciting stuff during the daytime. But you can see that CAPE erodes as those storms eat up that energy and move into the region. Now, let's take a look at the lifted index. Sorry, Hank is snoring in the background. Ample energy there as well, so pretty good values. We're looking at, oops, shoot, I keep forgetting I'm not using my mouse. I'm using my finger on my iPad. Either way, the numbers, I can tell you, are pretty reasonable for that. We're looking at that color scale. We're between minus 10 and minus 14. So bulk shear, we've got some shear this morning still that's kind of hanging out, and then we get into late tonight, and that shear profile sets up pretty decently. Now let's back it up to about the initiation time of some of these expected storms, which I think was around, here we go. So we'll just take a look at the soundings out there. So it's suggesting a tornado. Little bit of a cap to get through, minor. Ample dew points. Photograph is looking reasonable. Could be a little bit more arced up there, but still some decent rotation possible. Now let's go forward one additional hour. Take a look at area just east of there. So this one's a little more funky. Still suggesting a little bit of a warming layer above, but I don't think that'll be a huge factor here. Now let's take a look at the supercell composite. So the environment will be rather favorable for supporting some cells, even with this cloud cover that we do have. And then the significant tornado parameter, SIGTOR, we get into, now this is around, yep, so 02 Z. So that's around 9 p.m. You can see that little finger of instability just to the west with the tornado parameters. Now we looked at this yesterday, updraft helicity. Now that we don't have the morning activity clouding this up, making it hard to figure out what's going on, we can look at, do we anticipate any rotating updrafts? Well, yeah, a few. And some of these might be after dark, so that's what makes it extra dangerous. So I think this area to the west could be more of a late after dinner affair, and then we get just north of the metro. We could be looking at a corridor of some pretty heavy activity cutting right through St. Cloud, north of North Branch. So this area is going to be one to watch. And you could be dealing with torrential rains as well, which we don't really need, because it's been a saturated few days. Let's see how the 15Z is doing. Well, we got 14 hours on it, so let's take a look at this one. What does this one suggest? So this one dials it back a little bit, but then still keeps that corridor rather north. So I think, this area seems to be the hot spot. Identifying counties without cities is pretty tricky, but I'd say this is Alexandria area, if memory serves. Cutting through St. Cloud. So still worth watching. I don't think today is a total loss because of the cloud cover. I really don't. Let's take a look at one other thing here. Sasquatch. One of the things I like to use. Now, add map layer. We'll go satellite. We'll go goes east, full disk, blue visible, add to map. So this is the current satellite situation. So you can see this cluster of cloud cover over the region. Taking a little bit to load here. So you can see as the sun came up, starts to illuminate these clouds a little bit better. And there's this mass that's to our west right now in the Dakotas. It's pretty thick cloud cover. So do I think 90 degrees and sunny today? Absolutely not. It'll still be humid. I think we could get the low 80s still possibly if we get enough sun in the late afternoon, but this cloud cover is surely going to become a bit of an issue. So there it is, finally loaded. So Minneapolis is right here. Sorry, each time I move it, it has a little bit of an issue, but so things are going on. Let's take a look at what the NAM is saying. They're going to be discontinuing this one soon. I feel like a loss, a sense of loss, but they're going to be replacing it with a different model. Let's take a look at, well, updraft Felicity really quick. Oops. So, similar idea. North Metro, not even over into Wisconsin. This is a rotating updraft. And then we got a little rogue renegade cell up by the lakes, the cabin areas. Let's take a look at the reflectivity. So it kind of indicates those showers to the west. Not quite as elaborate as they currently are, however. And then a similar track. Now this has more of a bow segment moving in, whereas the other one had kind of more of a linear line of cells kind of draped west to east. And then you can see some more possible activity getting going tomorrow, but scattered. So we'll see how it shakes out. Now I know the old saying is the morning convection always limits the evening. Do I think that's going to be the case today? Normally I would say yes, but today, given the energy that's still out there and behind this cluster of clouds, I don't think it's going to get as hot today. I don't think it's going to be as sunny as we thought it might be, close to 90. I think we're looking probably low 80s with those dew points. But I do think there will be enough energy behind these clouds to give us some activity, and it'll probably be way later. So if you're into the chasing thing, which I kind of got into the last couple days, you'd have to head pretty far west to get anything during the daytime. Otherwise, you're night chasing, which is pretty dangerous. Storms could still get going a little earlier, but I think these other clouds have to clear out first. Between 4 and 8 is kind of the thing everyone's talking about, but I think it's going to be more like between 6 and 10 to the west. I could be wrong. Metro probably won't see a lot going on until later, but we get kind of that arc developing north of the metro before it kind of fills in and solidifies and starts to drop southeast. So there could be some formation along and east of St. Cloud to the north, and then as that complex kind of shifts south, we could get in on some of that. So these are just my opinions. Far from the expert. I do have some experience in the matter, but I would say stay tuned. Stay tuned for watches and warnings, and yeah, have a good rest of the day. I'll be keeping an eye on things. Hank woke me up early, so I looked tired. We took a nap on the couch this morning, but I'm here watching things. I might go out later with Miles. He's not free till 4:30, but I don't know. It's going to be a risk. How far west do we have to go, and how much sun will we have up still when this stuff gets going? So it's always a calculated risk. How much gas and time do you want to burn in order to see something? I know a lot of the diehards are going to be out there, probably catch something, so it might be worth it. But yeah, stay tuned to the updates. Watch for warnings. Have a warning source handy, especially if you're headed up north. There could be some pretty serious activity for some still, I think. So, all right, guys, have a good day.